Hello everybody, tonight we are working on installing Ruby on Rails so that we can do our work in this class. And for those of you that have tried it, and I know there's a few of you that tried to do this preemptively, you probably discovered issues with the installation instructions, and that's why I added this big yellow thing up at the top, which will be removed by the time you guys probably watch this video. But Ruby is the programming language. Rails is our authoring framework. Both of them require separate installations, including some additional components that go with each. And we're going to walk through that whole process. But what happens over time is they update the programming language, they update the framework, they update the tools. And so the goal here is to walk you through a complete installation and show you how to do all those steps. Now, prior to recording this video, I'm going to tell you that I was hoping to be successful in doing it, but I ran into a hitch, which I haven't solved yet. So I'm going to be solving it while I'm doing the video. Now, while some of you might go, well, that's pretty lame, you should know how to install this. I'm going to tell you what, it's not lame. This is how this stuff goes. When you start working with higher end stuff and you work with really challenging technologies, this becomes part of your life, is figuring out issues that you run into on a continual basis. So I actually consider this a super valuable learning experience in that you're watching me struggle with the instructions and figure them out. So my process is I was going through all of these and making edits, and I actually have a Word document here on my second screen, which is pulling over from the wrong side, by the way. I should probably fix that. Let me do that real quick if you guys don't mind. Much better. All right, so these are my revised instructions that I'm working on. So I'm going to try to follow this for now, and I am going to be making edits to it as I go, and you guys will watch my whole process. So part of really what you're learning here is how to troubleshoot difficulties that you're going to run into. Unfortunately, this isn't like, click here, install Ruby on Rails, you're all set to go. It's not like that, unfortunately. But you can change the mindset that you have on it and look at it as actually something fortunate, because when you're in IT and you're presented with problems and you figure out how to overcome them, you've just added to your arsenal of skills. And that's probably one of your most important skills, is to figure your way out of a problem. Really, I mean, that is the nature of IT. So consider that as we do this. All right, so we're going to start by going to the Ruby installer. That is the correct link that's on the website right now. So go ahead and click that. I do also want to make a little preemptive warning that I am working on a PC. The instructions for installing on a Mac are different. So this does not cover a Macintosh environment. But as I speak, I'm looking at in a room here where I got like, what, 7, 8 people. I have 3 people on Macs. So I don't know if you guys are running in VirtualBox or Parallels or dual booting or whatever you're doing. That's great. If not, and you want to install it natively on your Mac, it is totally possible. And if you want, you can just research it on your own and do it. But what I'm hoping is that I'll come up with an install approach for the Mac as well. The last time I put that on my own Mac, it was a snap compared to doing it on a PC. The reason for that basically is Windows is a different platform than Linux and Unix. This is really a Linux-based technology is what it is. So keep that in the back of your head as we're working. All right, so if you come to the Ruby installer page, you'll notice that they do have the big old download button, and that is the one you want to click. And it takes you to their downloads page. And the one thing that you guys need to start getting the habit of doing when you're working with advanced and complicated software, especially authoring environments and IDEs, is you want to be really careful about not skimming over instructions, right? In the Microsoft world, it's like, you know, you go next, 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 I agree, install, finish, and you're done, right? And you don't worry about it because you just figure it works. Here, you want to read the instructions because the instructions will be very pertinent to the success of what you're doing. Right now, if you look on the left-hand side of the screen there, and it says which version to download. And you notice on the left-hand side, they have a whole list of installers. Last year at this time, we installed 2.25 because at that time, that was the stable version that was recommended. They had versions that were newer, but I'm always pensive about using those because, you know, they're calling it not stable. So not stable means that there's issues, right? I don't want to be the one running into those issues when I'm trying to teach a class or teaching you how to code. So we go with whatever's stable. What's unusual this time around, being the fall of 2017, so this is September 13th of 2017, is their website for the first time is actually recommending the one at the very top of the list, really, as being a stable version. So that's what I'm going to choose to download. So that's what I'm just about to do. So now, do you choose the x64 or the x86? What do you guys say? Why 86? Who said that? Yeah. Why? It's 32-bit. x86 on a PC implies that it's a 32-bit operator. Somebody here is showing me a shortcut way to do this. And yes, I am aware of that approach. And we might resort to that if we have to. But the x86 implies it's 32-bit. If you're running a 64-bit operating system, you should download the x64 version, which is 64-bit. How do you know if you have a 64-bit operating system? Well, if you guys aren't aware of this, I should probably show you. You should go to your File Explorer, and then depending on what version of Windows you're running, this will say computer or my computer or this PC. This is Windows 10, so it says this PC. I'm going to right-click that and do a Properties. And that brings up the basic system information. You'll notice that it says Windows 10 Pro, and what does it say right here? System type 64-bit operating system. Why? Because I have a 64-bit processor. Basically, any operating system after Windows 7 that's a Windows operating system is 64-bit, anyhow, by default. Windows 7 did offer 32-bit versions, although it was rare. They were out there. But ones that were really truly 32-bit were Windows XP. That's kind of how old we're talking about. So chances are it's a 64-bit operating system. All right, so if you figured out what type of operating system you have, and hopefully it's 64-bit, go ahead and download the appropriate version. I did have one of my Mac users here in class that's running VirtualBox, and they're running Windows 7 inside of it, and they're actually running a 32-bit version, so he'll have to install this one. All right, so I'm doing the download. Download looks like it's about 8.6 megs. Once the download completes, go ahead and launch the file. Looks like it's doing a check on it right now. I'm trying to be patient, wait for that little blue circle to go away. All right, so now that it's all set to go, I'm going to click the program. Of course, we'll accept the license terms like we have a choice. Now, there's a couple of checkboxes on this first screen here, and these are pretty important, especially that very first one, which it says add Ruby executables to your path. Can anybody in here explain to me what a path is on a computer? Well, let me explain it to you then. A file path, that's right. So by creating a path statement, this is something that gets added to your environment variables for your operating system. And what it tells the operating system is which folders within the folder structure we can access without having to navigate on a command line to that folder to then launch a program. So the Ruby program is going to get stored in a Ruby folder, and if I want to run stuff with it, if I don't have it in the path, I have to go CD, find my Ruby folder, find my project, find the executables, then I got to be right in the same folder where the executable is in order to launch it. That's a pain. What we do is we allow it to add to the path statement, so then I can type that command from anywhere in the file system and it works. Okay. We do want to associate the Ruby and the Ruby W files. If you want, you can actually click the UTF-8 down here. I don't really consider that a big deal, honestly. Go ahead and click install. And yes, I do have it already there, so I'm going to allow it to do it again. And this will take a few moments. You can see that it's going through and it's decompressing and copying a whole boatload of files. Yeah, it's going kind of fast. I do have a relatively fast PC, and it's all SSD. So, all right. The next thing that you guys are going to want to select here, and this is kind of the point where I started running into problems. So this is where it might get interesting or fun, depending on your perspective. Notice that it has a little checkbox there that says run the RIDK install to install MySys2 and development toolchain. That's required to install gems with C extensions. And that is something we're going to need because a lot of the extensions that we pull in will come from those libraries. So leave that checked, then go ahead and click finish. All right. So now you get this DOS screen, basically command line, and you're presented with some options. And notice what it says here. It says MySys2 base installation, option 1. Option 2 is the system update. So assuming that you already have it, right? So it's just going to do an update. And then the last one, which is MySys2 and the MingW development toolchain. Now, the first time I did this, I chose the first option. And notice how it says here, if unsure, press enter. So you know what I did? I press enter, right? Because I didn't think that I really needed the MingW stuff, but now I'm thinking that I actually do. So what I'm going to be choosing here is option 3, because I figure more is better than less, right? So maybe I was missing something there that kept it from working, so that's kind of my logic here. How do I know? Well, this is my second attempt, so the first attempt was option 1, the second attempt is option 3, so if that one doesn't work, I don't think the system update is going to help me much. So this probably has to be the right one. So I'm going to type 3 and then press enter. And what am I getting? A whole bunch of text. Oh gosh, do I actually have to read this? Guess what? Yeah, you should try to read it. Now, at a command prompt, when you're running a program, there's some rules of thumb, right? A lot of times at a command prompt, when you type a command, you press enter, and nothing seems to happen. That's actually a good thing. When you get a lot of stuff that comes back on the screen that you're not anticipating, that will indicate to you what the problem is. So instead of like a little pop-up box coming up, they just dump it on the command line. So I'm going to try to read this, and it says, MySys2 seems to already be installed. Install, blah, 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 blah. So it's going through and it's like, warning, this one's up to date, up to date, up to date. And what's it doing? It's skipping it. Right? Yes? Okay, I had a couple students here just shout out that, hey, my screens look different. And yes, they will look different because I was already messing with this just before I started recording these videos. So there are remnants of that program still existing. And it recognized that, and that's why I was getting these warnings and what stuff that it's skipping. The one thing that is concerning me, though, is I see some warnings, because these are pretty simple. It's telling me that this thing that it's trying to install is already up to date. Why is it bothering it, just skipping it? Okay, no big deal. But this one actually says error, target not found, and it's looking for what I'm looking at. It says win stored compat get. What would you guess that is, Tom? Yeah, it probably has something to do with GitHub. It probably has to do something with the Windows Store and its compatibility. I'm just like extrapolating from the name of the files. Can you see what I'm doing? For which? Yeah, I'm in developer mode. Okay, so now I'm getting schooled by my students here. There is a mode in Windows 10. Yep. And you see what I did here is I went to settings, I typed developer, and I am in developer mode. And guys, you're learning how to code, right? You should be in this mode. Really, it gives you... Yeah, it does restrict some sorts of access. So I don't think that this is any of the stuff that's throwing my errors right now, but that is a possibility for some of you. So now I'm back to the same screen. and I'm kind of wondering what I should do. So this is where I will start to do a little bit of investigation. I had a few different suggestions, and the last one, of course, made me laugh, which is to take the error message, paste it into a browser, and as Tom said, spin the wheel and see what comes up. You know what? That's going to be one of your number one problem-solving tools, folks, right? The error message that you're getting. I had another person suggest, well, why don't you try system update and see what that does? You know what? No harm done. Why don't we give that a shot? So I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to type 2. It seems to be doing a whole lot of stuff, doesn't it? Okay. We're just letting it do its work. Well, I had installed it, and I was going back to try to fix it, and so the update might make sense to do for me. So let's see if this takes care of any issues. Right now, I mean, it seems to be going farther than I was before. This is really no guarantee that it's working, but we'll find out. So, yeah. Previously today, I did not have this tool installed. Right before classes started, though, I did. But I'm a little hopeful because I'm looking at the libraries that it's throwing in right now. And if you're familiar with Unix and Linux systems, a lot of the stuff that you're seeing loaded up right now will look familiar. So I am letting the video run. I don't always do that. Now it said succeeded. The update succeeded. On its own. Somebody asked if I imported the keys. All right. So we're having a little bit of talk here about security keys and things like that. But right now, I'm going to call this, I think, done. I'm going to leave this window open, no harm done. It's just sitting there. I am going to minimize it and get it out of the way. But the thing that I want to do next is I do want to run a regular command prompt, and I'm just going to run another instance of it. So I'm going to hit my start button and type CMD, bring up the prompt, and notice where I sit in my folder structure. I'm sitting in my user directory within Windows. So it's in the users folder and my named folder because that's my user account on this machine. A lot of programming languages really prefer to be installed in the root of an operating system for a number of different reasons. Not the least of which, when people write textbooks, they can give examples always based off the root of C, and it always works the same because everybody's putting their files in the same spot. So a lot of people aren't really used to working at in the root of their C drive. But what I'm going to do here first is I'm actually going to bump up my font size a little bit, so maybe it's a little easier for you guys to see what I'm typing. And you guys will have to tell me, can you read that? Okay, are you guys fine? All right. What's really kind of nice is I am using Windows 10, and most of you, if you're bringing up a command prompt like this, you're not going to see it appearing the same way. First thing, you'll notice that I have a little bit of transparency turned on, and the reason I did that is because I noticed the other day that they added that as a feature, and that really kind of copies a lot of Unix and Linux systems, and the Mac does the same thing with the terminal. But I also changed my font so that it's a bright green on a black background. The very simple reason I do that is because I just think it looks easier on the eyes, but that's a preference. So you don't have to change colors, but that is something you might want to consider. If you do want to do that, the spot where you do it is you hit the little icon in the top left corner of the window, you choose Properties, and then you can start to adjust those things. The one thing that I am noticing, though, is that screen background. I'm actually going to change the opacity upwards a little bit because I really don't want bleed through. from the other apps so that you guys, when I'm typing a command, you can see the commands I'm typing real clearly. And now I'm going to go back to what I was just about to say as I started typing is I don't want to be in my user directory right now. I want to be in the root of my C drive. And so you're going to learn some basic command line commands here. And for those of you that have never learned command line commands, it's really a good time to go out and start investigating a little bit. You will get peppered with it constantly in here. So here's your first one that you're going to learn. You're going to type CD space /, not the / that you usually type after HTTP, but the one that's above your enter key. After a little bit of a pause here, we're back, and we're learning about basic command line things, but we have to solve some issues here in class. So basically at this point, we were changing from our user directory to the root of our C drive, and we're just typing CD space /. And what that does is it drops you down to the root. So that's one of our basic navigation commands that you're going to discover. Another thing that a real basic command, if you're not aware of it, is dir at a Windows prompt. And that one just shows a listing of all the files and folders that are listed in the root of my C drive. So if I were to open up a File Explorer window, which I encourage you to do, because one technique that I use in this class is we'll use the command line, but we're also going to use the Windows tools too, because they're there, right? And sometimes some things are easier to do through Windows than they are at the command line. And since we're in Windows, why not? So what you should see here is all the folders that are listed in the command line are also mimicked in the regular File Explorer window. Now, of course, the ones that are hidden in the regular operating system are not displaying here, and there's additional commands you would type to be able to see that. But notice that I do have my Ruby 24 x64 installed. Now, I have a secondary reason for bringing up this File Explorer window. The reason for this is to be able to check to see if Ruby got added to the path or not. So that's what we're going to check right now. The way that you do that is you find, the My Computer icon, or this PC, or whatever version of Windows you're running, and once again, give that a right click and do a Properties. And you might still have this window open, I'm not sure. But once you're here, what you want to click on is Advanced System Settings. The alternate way to get here is to launch your control panel and then type in Advanced, and that should pop up as you're searching. When you get to this screen, and this is probably one that you guys have really messed with, because really, most Windows users don't really need to touch this. They have no reason to, right? But what we're concerned with is what we call the environment variables. So if you click that, you'll notice in this window that pops up that there is a path statement. And you notice right here, this path statement, and you notice what the Ruby installer did for us automatically. It added Ruby 24-x64 to my path. And more importantly, the bin directory, which indicates that's where the binaries are. Those are the executable files for the program. All the commands that we would type, all the Ruby commands are located in that folder. So anything that's now in that folder, I can just call it out by name from the command prompt, and it will just run. Simple as that. So if that's in there, you can click cancel. If it's not, it probably indicates that your system didn't update it correctly during the install, in which case you would have to reboot and see if it's there, and if not, you might want to try the install again. Worst case scenario, you would add that line manually to make sure it's there. It's really not that hard to do if you've got to that point. All right, so if you're good there, you can go ahead and get all those windows out of the way. The next thing we're going to try now is, since Ruby is installed, I'm going to, at the prompt, I'm going to type ruby -v. And this is a Linux-style command. And what you guys are going to discover here is, even though we're working at a Windows command prompt, we're going to be typing Linux-style commands to execute actions, which is kind of fun. So -v, as an extension to the Ruby command, simply outputs the version of Ruby that was installed. If you get an error message when you type that in, that means your installation of the Ruby programming language did not succeed. If you succeeded, it will spit back the version number. Is everybody okay? Okay, that's good. All right, now I'm going to go back to my instructions here, wherever I put them. There they are. And you see I got a bunch that I'm removing because we already did the install of the dev kit. So now I'm actually down to this step here. And the next step, and this is kind of fun because if you're working on a machine, you can actually copy paste these right into the command line if you don't want to type them. Except you don't have the document, but you could pull it from the web page. All right, so you can see the command is gem space update -- system. Now let me talk about what this is going to do before I press enter. Ruby, being a programming language, has the capability of having external packages, which in the Ruby language they call gems, that you can install and update. Some of those things get installed by default when you first run the installer, but they don't add everything, right? And then whenever you do this, whenever you install Ruby, between the time they release it on the website and the time that you're like installing it and using it, people that create the various gems or the packages that get installed may have been updated since. So what we're doing right now is we're running this command to force all the gems that are pre-installed to update to the latest version. If they're all up to date, and just press enter, it'll tell us. And it looks like I'm okay. So hopefully you guys got the same thing. If you didn't, then you'll be going through the process now where a bunch of different screens are popping through, and it'll be downloading components, extracting them, and installing them. When the process is complete, it will tell you what succeeded and what failed. Hopefully, everything succeeds. It's not unusual to see a couple of things fail or get a warning or an error, and it's not a reason to go into panic mode. In fact, with all of this stuff, you will run into these frustrations, so don't go into that mode. If you do happen to get a firewall error, or not an error, but a warning, check both boxes, both public and private, and then click Allow Access. The reason it's not prompting me is just before I started the video, I had already gone through that process. So I had already approved it in the firewall. And I hadn't rebooted, so it didn't reset that registry setting or however it stores it. And hopefully that will get you past that point. All right, we're going to move on to the next command, folks. Jumping back to my instructions here. And the next command is a little bit longer, and I'm actually going to pull this off to the side here so I can see it. And this is where my installation failed last time. Okay? All right. So this is a possibility that it might fail here again, and I'm kind of already like mentally prepared for that. So if it fails, I'm not going to consider it a big deal. That's when I'm going to jump to the research approach to figure out why it failed. Now, this command that I'm about to drop in has a couple of switches in it. And what I mean by a switch is or you can think of them as arguments actually, are the little appendages at the end, the ones that are prefaced by the dashes. And what I'm telling it is to not install a couple of components when I'm doing the install. One of the most lengthy things about installing Rails is all the documentation that goes with it. So you know what? I figure it's all out on the internet. I really don't need to burden my hard drive with it. That's kind of my mindset there. And I also want the install to not take 10 minutes. I'd rather have it take like 30 seconds, which is what it's supposed to do. And then I forget what the RI does, but it's also useful in the same kind of way. So somebody Google it for me and tell me what that means. All right, so I'm going to type that in. So gem update. Why did you say no? Oh, thank you, sir. Gem install Rails. So that's the basic command to install Rails inside of Ruby. But I'm adding the switches. All right, so gem install Rails --node -ri and --node -rdoc. All right, I'm going to press enter. And for those of you that are doing a fresh install, got a bunch of different errors here. So I got to read this. So I'm going to be reading through this here in just a second, but I'm pausing the video to close the classroom door. All right. So I got an error message here, and what you do with an error message, you should read it. Right. I don't know if you guys are in that habit, because I know a lot of Windows users that just general users, right? They get warning screens and error messages, and they just put the boxes away, right? They never even look at them. But here, you're not going to solve your problem unless you do look at the error messages. All right. So what this is saying to me, and where I'm looking here, by the way, is here's my original command that I typed. So I kind of scroll back up and look. And then it starts to error installing wares, failed to build gem native extension. And it gives me a bunch of stuff, and it says external conf file, RB failed, could not make file due to some reason, probably lack of libraries under headers. And it will ask me to check the log file, which will probably contain the same exact things here. Then it continues, and it shows me that it was running a different command on its own, and it failed to generate an executable file, so it's a runtime error. And then it gives me a whole long convoluted path to look at to try to figure out what the problem is. All right, so this is my challenge question for me. Now, my gut feeling on this is something I did was incorrect. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually stop this video, do a little research. I'm also going to reboot my machine. And then I'm going to try to do this process again after a reboot. We are scheduled for a break here in class, so that's what we're doing next. So I will see you in the next video. I'm taking a break. We'll come back. I'm going to reboot, and I'm going to try to run the Rails installer again. Hopefully it'll just work. And if not, I'm going to consider wiping everything and reinstalling it again. And if that doesn't work, I got plan B and C in place too. So, and D actually. So I'll see you in the next video.